Hello, Happy New Year, and welcome back to Bound and Unraveled. My name is Christina, and it's been a while since we talked. I'm going to start this video by exposing myself a little bit and confessing that I think I let 2025 get a little bit away from me. I did a lot of new adventure and setting really exciting goals of different things to incorporate in my life, but I think I was a little bit overambitious in how much I could juggle at once. So I'm really sorry that I took kind of an unexpected and unexplained absence from YouTube. I am sure that I'll need to take breaks again in the future. What I will commit to is being more communicative and putting like a little updated description in the channel of the YouTube in my YouTube channel when that is the case. And that kind of feeds directly into the purpose of this video, which is thinking about a reading habit for 2026 and what reading goals could look like for this new year. I've kind of fallen out of love with making big self-optimizing goals to start the year. And for 2025, there were lots of changes. There were lots of new adventures, which were very exciting. It was a little bit turbulent, a little bit all over the place. And one thing I really missed was having reading be a consistently large and settled part of my routine. And so for 2026, and to thinking about what I want this year to look like, I really want to have a reading habit that feels realistic and sustainable, and where reading just forms a part of my life in the morning, afternoon, and evening, and having less of a little bit of a fits and starts kind of relationship with it. At the same time, I don't want to take that too far and then just say I'm going to be reading all the time and exclusively and forget and neglect other hobbies or just parts of my life that I enjoy. So I think a good happy ground, for me at least, is thinking about mood reading. And mood reading is such a big part for me in the past of having reading be an active and consistent part of my life, because I know that it's most easy to pick up a book when it's already kind of following what is sparkly and attractive to me in that moment. And sometimes that will be a classic, but a lot of times it's a rom-com or it's a mystery or it's some kind of thriller. And I want to lean into following the energy that I already have so that reading can kind of pair with that really well and have it be a more integrated part of my life. So, thinking about that sustainability and thinking about starting this year, I will set the scene. It is January in London. When I look outside my window, all I see is what looks like a huge cloud. We've had some flurries, we've had a lot of spitting rain. It is currently 3:48 and the sun should be going down in the next 15 minutes. So my energy levels are low, and I don't think that's a bad thing. It's in fact quite conducive to staying at home and cozy with my books. And I want to start the year by reading things that will reflect back to me that introspection, taking life a little bit more slowly, and finding ways to realistically and also with gratitude appreciate this season of winter and of hibernation. So basically, I've picked out 3 nonfiction books that speak about some of those larger themes that I think I want to think about more intentionally in 2026, and will hopefully set the tone for a reading habit that's a little bit more considered and kind and gentle and consistent. And I'll bring you along with me as I humbly confront my many screen addictions at the moment and try to relay the groundwork for cozy reading and being at home, but doing things that I still love and that bring me joy, namely engaging with books. The next clip will be me going to purchase our first book, which is aptly named The Gifts of Winter. And I'll also just try to show you London in its most grey and dormant state, so that we can then appreciate it when it's also green again, but hopefully find the beauty in this version as well. Okay, I will catch you very soon as we brave the weather outdoors to get our first book. I'm coming to love winter in London. When the sky is most grey, the clouds heavy on the city. I love that the weather really beckons you indoors, to sit in wood-filled pubs, cradling a pint and chatting with friends, going on muddy walks, bracing against a spitting rain, or curled up in bed with a mug of tea, watching the world go by. London feels like a city designed for people who are trying to find the warmth amidst a chilly, grey outdoors, and winter honestly suits it so well. The dim light also brings out the depth of the city. In the grey, the colors of the cobblestones and bricks seem to come alive, and I love how in the muted landscape of nature, I find myself more attentive to the subtler beauty around me in the city, trying to find the shades in what at first glance can appear monotonous. I also love going down streets lined with bare trees, and imagining how they will soon be transformed into colorful rivers of green. Amidst the plentiful distractions and pounding urgency of modern life, winter feels like a welcome exercise in attentiveness and patience. That said, when the sun does come out, it feels like such a treat, one that you can see light up the faces of people around you. And on a sunny Wednesday, I took advantage of the opportunity to go find the colors of winter at Kew. Hello! It has been several days. Feels like just as I was getting ready to go all in on the winter bleakness, the sun this morning came out. And then on the way back, I stopped at South Kensington Books to get our first book, which is The Gifts of Winter by Stephanie Fitzgerald. And this is just a book based on neuropsychology and I think anecdotal experience about finding ways to enjoy instead of endure winter. So I'm really excited about this. I think this will set the tone and hopefully give some practical advice that I can carry forward for the rest of this video. So the plan is to get a beverage, get comfy. I'm going to turn on my cozy lighting and just curl up and read this book for the rest of the evening. Coming over to my chair, someone's decided to she's going to enjoy the reading corner. Hi, Kix.
Just got up, something's wrong. I waited up, wounds on my feet. Where will you be?
I cannot recommend this book enough. It was like a warm, cozy hug, and I felt like I had my favorite winter jumper on, my favorite beverage, and was snuggled up in bed just through reading this book. She does such a great job of making the writing approachable and embracing, and also practical and tangible. She really pairs those two things so well. It wasn't one of those self-help books that just ends up leaving me more stressed about more things I need to do. Instead, it felt like There were really small things about my current life that I can kind of call in a little bit more and be more intentional about. So, for example, last night I had the best sleep in a while just because this book inspired me. And so I did some of the things that I know are good for me, but can be a little bit hard to put into practice. It was like in the aggregate, the way that she talks about winter and the practical habits and things was just really inspiring. And she also has really cool ways of talking about traditions and things that I actually really want to implement. So I will definitely be talking about this book with my friends and with my loved ones. Whether you're having a hard time with the season or in general it kind of gets you down, or if you're like me and you're kind of indifferent or ambivalent about winter, I think that you would probably find something to take away from this book. And one thing I will share with you that we can take away together is that she kind of invites us to rethink the new year and New Year's resolutions. She points out that it's kind of self-defeating or just not very kind to ourselves that we pick the darkest time of the year when we're all coming out fatigued and stressed off of the holidays to then make our most ambitious goals of how to overhaul our lives, and that just doesn't set us up for success. So she invites us instead to think about winter as basically a time to recharge and to kind of shore up energy, reset, plan for what we want to do for the rest of the year so that we can have more of a natural, encouraging new year in the spring when we just organically have that energy. And I really, really loved that. It was just such a gentle way to be with ourselves and to be with the season and to stop feeling like we're fighting the season. On the note of New Year's resolutions, one thing that she does say is that winter can be like a good time to reflect so that then when the spring comes that we can put things into practice. And usually when books have journal prompts, I kind of like read them, think, oh, that's so nice, and then never come back to them. In this case, I do actually want to take the time. It's been a very great day. The sun is, whatever sun we had is starting to go down. So I've got a tea in my Moomin mug, and it's a snowball tea, so perfect for the season, and some biscuits. And I'm gonna sit and journal a little bit, and I'll share with you some of my favorite questions that I'm excited to think about. I like, how have you nurtured yourself this year? Who smiled this year because of you? What did you question this year? What of this year, memories, experiences, moments of courage or strength do you want to package up and carry forward to next year? What is potentially my biggest challenge this coming year? How will I support myself through it? So, we're gonna journal, and then I will check back in with you to introduce our next book. All right, our next book is Quiet by Susan Cain, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. I've heard about this book so much, particularly I remember in middle or high school being shown the author's TED Talk where she basically talked about introversion, and I think it was the first time I was really exposed to it as a concept. And it was the first time I was kind of invited to think about traits in myself that I was usually a little bit embarrassed about or ashamed of, like my shyness, my quietness, my self-sufficiency with just being in my own mind and needing to recharge by myself. And thinking about all of those things as not something to be ashamed of, but rather something to embrace and see as having their own value as well. And so I've wanted to read this book for a long, long time. And the Barbican Library actually had a copy, so I picked it up, and I'm very excited. I wanted to read this book now because, again, I think winter's a time where the world gets a little bit more quiet and where it's kind of an introvert's dream in terms of hobbies and retreating into our own little caves. So I thought that this would be a good way to recenter myself and connect with that part of myself which feels so aligned with this season. I will check back in with you next once I've finished this book. Hi, from Editing Christina. Sadly, the Final Clips audio was corrupted, so I'm coming to you directly from the editing booth. I found Quiet a victim of its own success. As explained here, because it was so impactful at the time for the location, its principal takeaways have actually made it into pop culture, which means that the reading experience in 2026 was just not that life-changing. I also really didn't like that sometimes it felt like Cain stretched the binary too far and suggested that introversion inherently makes you a reflective, thoughtful, considerate person, and that extroversion just makes you more superficial. I know I've definitely met plenty of people who cross that divide. Then I headed to the Barbican to read our final book, All About Love by Bell Hooks, a philosophical examination of love in all its forms, engaging with it intellectually. It was recommended to me by my therapist for the distinction it makes between cathexis, a noun for close emotional attachment to someone, and love, which she defines as a verb in which you actively foster someone's spiritual growth. Hooks therefore argues that love and abuse cannot coexist, which I think is a really important takeaway. Apart from that, it was a bit of a mixed bag, and sometimes I found her analysis too simplistic, and I personally disagreed with some of her takes on relationship dynamics. Still very easy to read and a pleasant experience at the Barbican, but personally I'd recommend checking it out at the library over purchasing it. With that, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're having a gentle start to the new year and finding ways to build a kind reading habit that works for you whenever and wherever you are as you watch this. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you very soon in the next video.